Welcome to our Star Trek Discovery After Show. As always, I am Christian Bladt, and sitting in today is the one, the only, the man responsible for new content every day, Flobo Boyce. Flobo, welcome back to the show.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm ecstatic. Baseball's back. Not the show's about, but I'm happy, baby. Let's go Mets. Love my Mets, baby. Ow!
Got Mr. Met right there, I know. And so the season's just going to start a week late, and they'll still play those games anyway. So everybody wins except for the fans that got turned away because they got annoyed by the whole thing. But, the rest of us will be fine. In
A
any
generation from
case,
now would be great.
we have 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery to talk about. Our friend Nikki Bailey, unavailable to be here this week, but she will be back for the big season 4 finale next week. And we look forward to getting her thoughts on that. But as we talk about episode 11, Rosetta, and episode 12, Species 10C, let's start with Rosetta. It came up sort of in passing when we did our Star Trek Picard after show, which is Fridays at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, right here on the Blackcast YouTube channel. We did talk a little bit about this, that there was some very exciting dust particles, and glad to see that they continued into episode 12. I think that, I think season 4, more so than any other season of Discovery, will make a good binge week to week, especially with that long break they took in the middle. That really did not do me right. They did me dirty with that, in all honesty. But I think that this review from space.com, which is a great website name, says Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 11, Rosetta has the away team on an acid trip. True, but then look at the subheading. It's an entertaining, well-written episode, but it's just not particularly memorable. And I feel that way about a lot of season 4. There has been good character work. We have gotten to season, and I mean, especially, Saru and President Torina. I mean, I can watch them
Are you on
awkwardly.
board, really?
I can watch them awkwardly flirt all day. If they actually get together, it'll be a letdown. It's
Okay.
but it's like Jim and Pam level vibes. I'm just like, I love how uncomfortable they are talking to people. I can relate to both of them. I love that. But
Would you like some tea?
yeah, I know. His long little dangly fingers.
Right.
So let's talk about Rosetta first. Your thoughts on this episode moving us along in our journey towards Species 10C?
You hit the nail on the head at the time. So we didn't have a chance to binge this one. This was the first time, and I tend to be very bullish on Discovery.
Yeah.
This is the first time I kind of felt like its length and heft, and it happens to me going back. It happened to me season 2 as well. I start to wonder why this show needs 13 episodes. I'm not sure if it's a syndication type deal. It definitely felt like filler. It is the best looking, high quality, like Egyptian cotton filler, but it's still filler. I didn't necessarily need a whole breakdown.
10,000 thread count filler. Absolutely.
Yeah, man,
I agree. 100%.
It's fine, but they're right. That 6-week break really stopped stuff. I would have to expect an all-out Dominion War to get you back in that mix, and that didn't come. It's kind of like, let's just wrap this up, which is very unfortunate for a show that has to prove now why you should come back in season 5.
Yeah, and they did not do themselves any favors going up against Picard, which is, the majority of Star Trek fans. You're the exception, but the majority of Star Trek fans are far more excited about that show because, look, we've cared about those characters for almost 35 years,
Mm-hmm.
So I do really, I guess, just one character on the show now. But, we've cared about Jean-Luc for that long. So, I think that this is not a great year for them to have such a long, drawn-out season, but that is a very sort of Star Trek thing to do, to take your time and have a little bit more of a cerebral story. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about episode 12, sort of, some of the reveals. I mean, if you think about Star Trek, for so much of the time, after between the final cancellation of the original series and Star Trek Motion Picture, the novels were all people had. And that is a much more cerebral experience. So I think you have a lot of Star Trek fans, even as it all continued. I mean, just go into an actual bookstore if you still have one where you live, and just go to the sci-fi wall and just like go to the Star Trek section. And that's not even half of the books that have been published. This is just the
Yeah.
most recent ones. These are the best sellers. So I appreciate that Star Trek is a much more cerebral show. A cerebral property. They spend more time talking about the science. And I think Discovery, until this season, the pacing I thought moved along really well. And I don't think this is a bad story. I don't think any of these episodes are bad. I
Mhm.
just wish we got to Species 10C in the middle of the season, and then there was a bigger, badder threat that they could team up with Species 10C or something. Uh,
Absolutely.
and I really felt that in this episode. There were some little dust particles in my home that were exhaustion particles that they just sort of surrounded me. Because look,
Right.
that actual sort of that sequence is really interesting.
Mhm.
The idea that they all touched these particles that made them angry or scared, and Culber just having that sense of peace, which was referenced in episode 12, so that they find the different compounds that create different reactions. That is actually really interesting. It just isn't particularly exciting. Does that make sense to you, Flobito?
Oh yeah, I'm kind of on board. I think it was a good choice to have Saru be fearful
Yeah.
because even though he cut off the ganglias and ganglia gang, it was kind of like, oh, he's a different person now. There was
Yeah.
always a part of my back of my mind like, is he 100% different? So seeing that, I was on board. But when the whole thing happened and they went to the nursery and we saw that in the different
Yeah.
kinds, I go, oh, this could have been easily written away in the ready room had it been on TNG, or this could have been done in a single scene or show or half an act if it was DS9. So it really makes you about decompression. I know we want to be able to savor our seasons, but now we're not in a position where a show goes off the air, there's 8 weeks and another Star Trek series comes on. They're overlapping now. So why do this?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think Discovery will, I think it does well in general. I mean, Paramount Plus and before that CBS All Access, they don't really tell you subscriber numbers, viewership numbers. If you look at some of the fan reactions, I think that Discovery is an underappreciated Star Trek property. And I do feel like over time, people are going to be like, wait, why did I stop watching this, in the middle of season one? Because of what you referenced, just the beautiful production values. I think that the great casting that you have across the board. I mean, I've never seen that actor who plays Tarka before, and he's not a likable character, but he's not supposed to be,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think in both of these episodes, we got this, but in episode 11, I think we're way past the point where Book needs to have smartened up and had the realization he needed that best friend who's like, girl, he's just not that into you. Tarka is in the Tarka business, and he's using Book. And just in this episode, the fact that he kidnaps Reno, which I wish that obviously I wish Nikki were here because I love getting her opinion. I always enjoy talking to her. But episodes with Reno are put a little light in Nikki's eyes. So the fact that we got
Right.
her in what looks like it'll be 3 consecutive episodes, I think is great. And I did sort of like you know. Here's the thing. I think it's great that they took her hostage. Season 1, they would have killed her because they were
Oh
just
yeah.
they were killing everybody season 1.
Oh yeah, that was like the status quo. I think the season one tried so hard to be like, this is not your average, Star Trek thing. And for someone with no reference, it was like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
But I can see how that could be the other thing. And we've come to love these characters. Jet Reno has become one of my favorites, even though I'm a Commander Non guy. Give me all the Commander Non you can. Stuff her in there, scenes she doesn't even exist. And she didn't really get like kidnapped. She got like showed up to like surprise them, but they got the jump on her.
Yeah, I know,
off camera.
exactly.
But these characters are really what we're holding on to because no one gets killed off, but people get cycled out. Like, remember Tilly had the adorable trait put on Adira, then Tilly disappeared. So it's
And I
always
mean,
cool to have.
and they referenced Tilly a couple of times, but man, it out of sight, out of mind for Tilly, and
Yeah.
not for me. I'd love her to come back. Where is she?
Well, we'll get to it in episode 13, 12. But my favorite bridge character, Bryce, wasn't even on the show. Christopher was. And I was like, but
Yeah,
that's
I
my
know.
guy.
Well,
I'm
didn't Bryce get assigned to something else actually in episode 11, right?
Yeah, he
And
did.
very exciting to see our pal Craig
Hey,
Their
what's up?
subplot would have been so bad without Reno, just dragged it out too long. Yeah,
She's
that's
a
in reference to
gravitas.
both 11 and 12, but you're right. It's sort of, running into her and how, what did she say? This better be a surprise party.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Tig Notaro's always great, especially as this character. And yeah, I think that made things interesting, and the fact that in episode 11 we see that they get the general on board against her better interests, but at the same time it's believable that she would, in episode 11, that she would give them intel. We'll talk about episode 12 separately,
Hmm.
but I felt like that's very consistent because she feels like they should be doing more, they should be being more proactive. She's worried about Earth being destroyed. Did you find it believable how she behaved? And we're just talking about episode 11 for the moment.
So I am torn because I understand Earth's role because I live here. No, I totally
Yeah,
understand.
hey.
Hey, hey, Earth's interest. No, I totally understand that having that defensive, that warlike kind of mentality. But Book is still someone who acted outside of protocol. I thought a general would understand that at least and go, I
Yeah.
don't care if I agree with you or not. You're being insubordinate and you're on the run. So I felt that to me was a bit of a betrayal in Doye's character. But at the same time, there is something kind of like diehardy about having an inside person to make that B plot viable. So I kind
Yeah.
of allowed it. But for me personally, as someone watching it who was not doing these shows, I was like, that's lame. But as someone doing these shows, I'm like, yeah, man, give me all the action. I need something to talk about.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't know. I think it's. I do agree that it makes sense that she would behave that way, but I don't know what it is about Tarka that people sign on with him. He doesn't have a nice face. He doesn't have a nice demeanor. He's very, and yet everybody's like, yeah, I'll help this guy. You know
Yeah,
this Book. I understand.
right.
If he asked me to help him, I'd be like, whatever you need.
See, I want to agree with you, and I'll probably do that here, but I also follow a bunch of Instagram people who promise me I could be rich, right? Sometimes you're kind of like,
Oh yeah.
uh, well, let me follow this guy. Maybe he
That's
might know
true.
something
If
I don't.
Tarka could make me rich, that would actually change everything.
I got a
Yeah,
DMA in my back seat right
if
now,
if
bro.
if he had a backpack full of gold pressed latinum, my Ferengi ears would pop up for sure.
Rules
Uh,
acquisition.
I think you know when you've been on with Nikki and I during the season, and when we talk about the season regularly, all of us, the character stuff is the best stuff, and
Mhm.
yes, Adira has taken the adorkable trait away from Tilly, but I think that sort of watching them deal with Gray not being there, and then, I mean, they got called out on it. There's a little bit of a crush on Detmer, and like, no, 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 I just want to be her.
No,
But look,
why?
anything that gets any of these characters more involved in the show,
Mhm.
and this was episode 11 was a good Detmer episode
It
because
was.
she has that scene with Adira at the end, but then also, she apologizes for losing her cool for like 8 seconds, and I liked that. Down on the away mission because of the I don't know what they were. They weren't spores, but the particles.
Right. The hard
And
pass.
yeah, I thought that I don't know, because that's a character that I always feel like whenever we see her and they give us just a little bit of her, I'm like, you give us more. We've
Yeah.
known her for, I mean, this is fourth season, but it's like what, 6 years at this point.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I like Detmer. I was a little afraid when Adira was like, I want to be Detmer because he wanted to be Tilly until he got written off the show, right?
Oh yeah,
Detmer is that kind of even the first couple episodes when they had that unspoken rivalry with Burnham, because Burnham basically led the insurrection that caused the Battle of the Binary Stars.
yeah,
And I was kind of like, oh man, we're gonna see that redemption happening, and even her PSTD. It was fun. I'm on board with Detmer. I'm okay with her not being heavily leaned. I'll be fine if I got those episodes. I'm not saying don't do it, but because you get to fill in the gaps, that's kind of like a fun side feature or quest. That's how I felt about not Nielsen, Ariam. Ariam didn't
yeah.
do much, but she was in the back and like, I wonder what that robot has for breakfast. You know what I mean? That was kind of fun for me.
Robot flakes. Craig Robinson jumping in again. Not a fan of Adira's bumbling nature. Craig feels that they don't pull it off like Tilly did. I think Tilly was a more likable character. We had more time with her, and if it's an either or thing, I'd like Tivoli to come back. But I think there's room for both. You know, they just have chosen for there to not be both, and for whatever reasons, you know, I've heard the theory that. And my apologies for forgetting her name, but the actress who plays Tilly, I think, wanted a little bit of a break. So
Right.
if that's the reason she's written out, then that's fine, you know.
Yeah,
But if it's a choice of, we don't need this many characters, that's unfortunate, and that I
it's
don't like.
unfortunate because
Yeah,
Adira was different. She started off as like the wonder kid in the engineering room.
yeah.
And she became adorable.
They started off as basically Wesley Crusher from Next Generation. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and look, anybody who can be Will Wheaton is doing well for themselves.
First time I heard that, shut up, Wesley, I almost spit up my drink.
Oh yeah, shut up, Wesley.
Shut up, Wesley.
Oh, it's real.
Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah. So I thought that it was good for, you know, it was a good Detmer episode. We got some good content in terms of learning more about her. And look, they're building to something with Culber. I mean, we saw it in both of these episodes, but you know, it's just that sense of peace that he had. And he does say in episode 12, he's just like, I don't know the last time I felt that. I was like, well, yeah, because you died, remember? And it's like, it hasn't been an easy, you know, it isn't like you died and like, let's just relax. You know, it's like when Spock dies and then, you know, he comes back as a little boy, you know, and he has an accelerated growth cycle due to the Genesis planet, in case, because I know you haven't seen Star Trek 3 yet. So, these are spoilers from
he's not
40,
dead.
from,
Thanks
from
a lot.
40 years ago.
I thought he was dead. That's how it
I
ended.
know. I didn't mean to ruin it for you, but yeah, and it really is, though. So many of these episodes this season, it's an increment. It's maybe one move on the chessboard. And I like this show better when it's like a speed checkers game, and you know, played in the park, and it's everything's, you know, firing a little faster. I know Star Trek is a little bit slower, but I just can't believe that so much time has been sent for, like, we're getting closer to species 10C. And the fact that we didn't get interaction with them until the second to last episode, about a month ago, I think Nikki and I agreed. It's like, oh yeah, they are not giving us species 10C anytime soon. They want to take their time. And I mean, I guess it's rewarding, but what stood out for you in episode 11? I mean, we touched on a lot of the things in that episode, and I don't want to overlook anything for you. Oh, let me put to, you know, will you answer that question first? Okay. And then I have a follow-up for you.
I thought once we got to the nursery, we saw, I guess, the bones of the things in the background. I thought we were going to finally see it, and I was expecting, as of now, physical form, right? Or at least or a humanoid version of what 10C is, an emissary. I was assuming either an emissary or the actual actual species. And that's what I'm saying about decompression of storylines, because I understand you don't want to make things hot shot, but the Culber storyline is a perfect example of this. We knew Culber was stressed out, but we have these repeated conversations. It reminds me of like those Smallville shows, or like The Flash, where the Flash like doubts himself for 40 minutes and saves a day in the last 2, but at least those have 23 episodes to fill. So when you have things like that, where it's just Culber being like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'll help out Zora. It's like, we've saw this actual exchange. It should be advanced. But that said, I was kind of disappointed. I thought for sure we would have seen 10C. I thought for sure this would have been a tipping point for Culber to, like, you know, go nuts. It did feel like a holding pattern. You can really skip this episode and get filled in next week without being out of the loop at all.
Yeah, like, you definitely need to watch the recap at the beginning of episode 12. But even conversationally, they're like, remember when we went down to the planet and there was all that dust everywhere? Yeah, that pretty much nailed it. Yeah. The thing, as we move on to episode 12, I think you were being very upfront about, it looks to me like you are not on board with Saru and President Sharina. Tell me more about how you are a number 8 ER. You're a hater. Flobo hates love. Let's hear more.
Craig Robinson knows that I hate everything when it comes to love. Look, I'm all for banging in space. I get it. We're all here alone. But this to me just sounds like someone looking at all the characters on the wall and be like, okay, who is as awkward as possible? I know Saru and President Tarina. Like I was never at home wondering how do Navarre women get down. I wasn't at home like, you know what Saru needs? A girlfriend. It just, to me, just seems kind of tacked on a show where there's enough relationships, so much to get ignored, like Stamets and Culber and Adira and Gray, or Gray's in school, or Tilly or whatever
Yeah.
the hell that friend was, or Burnham and Book. You know, I don't feel like that needs to be linked up as well.
That's fair, but I'm all for awkward people finding each other, you know.
Aw.
So, yeah, and look, if they actually go on a date, you know, they have their little holodeck stroll. If we see it, I'll probably be let down. And I'm not gonna lie, if they were to actually kiss, I think I would be like, no, I didn't need that. And
Does
I don't
Saru
want to
have
be.
lips?
I'm not being speciesist. I just don't think I need that level of affection. If they were, there has to be nobody around. They neither of those people would kiss someone in front of a crowd of people. You know,
Right.
this is not 10 things I hate about you. You know, although I could do a podcast 10 things I hate about Discovery, but I generally still like the show. I just feel exhausted after this season. And
That said, I'd rather them than Tarkin, whatever that cellmate was. That was
well,
creep.
Nikki and I talked about that on a show that is so LGBTQIA friendly and has embraced those characters, they really kind of pulled back on Tarka and his cellmate very clearly, that they had this deep affection for each other and had a relationship, but they like didn't show it at all. You know what I
I
mean?
see why. I totally see why.
Well,
And granted, for background information, I am heterosexual, so please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
But
sure.
the way I forget his name or its name is presented, he looks awfully young, which is
You're
kind
talking
of
about
weird.
not Tarka, but Tarka's friend.
Yeah, it looks awfully young. And
Oh, I didn't see it that way, but
okay, I felt very much
no,
like
but you're saying it, and I'm like, oh, I guess I thought that they were probably around similar age, but you know,
it's hard to
maybe
tell
they're
with.
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. If that creature is young, it's all relative, I guess, in terms of like for that species, you know, like what is young for that species? Is he? And I believe it identified as male, and if it didn't, my
Yes, I
apologies.
believe so.
Yeah, but because he's referred to him as him,
Mhm.
and if that creature might be young, but he's like 60 years old, or 200. It could be one of those things. For whatever it is, I thought that like they were trying to set up this really close connection between them, and yes, they're friends. It felt like a very 90s sort of thing where it's like, this is a gay couple, but we can't call them that, and that's what I felt on that.
I felt
but
it was the Cass situation where, like, yeah, I guess
Cass, yeah.
Cass was an adult in her own sphere, but like to us, it's like you're only 3, right? Kind of a thing.
Yeah. Oh, this is not a bad point. Craig Robinson, do we think that if Saru and Tarina are making future plans at this point, one of them will not make it? Trope alert. I think it's entirely possible. I did have that feeling in the episode 12. I feel like there is definitely some promise of things to come, and I'm trying to remember now what it was. There was something watching episode 12, which is what we're transitioning to talking about now, Species 10C. And I remember I said out loud, oh no. And I can't remember who I thought was going to die. I should have taken a note, because somebody was talking about like something like, oh, we'll do that after this. And I was like, oh no, somebody's not going to.
I think the other trope's going to happen. That something's going to be so big that either Saru or Tarina is going to do something, a grand gesture of affection outside of what you think. I think they're going to.
So do you think that they'll both survive the season?
Yeah, they'll survive, but then Saru will either be being pushed forward to being more expressive, or Tarina is going to be like, oh, this is love because we're Navarre.
Yeah, no, exactly. So what did you think of since this is the topic we ended with on 11, let's pick this up for 12. What did you think of their little lovers quarrel in this?
Was it a lovers quarrel?
I mean, it didn't feel, I was like, she was so gruff with me, and Burnham is just like, I mean, look, it's like,
aren't you a married Christian? That's the most easiest argument.
Look, it does feel so. It feels very high school, and the like. Yeah, look, she likes you. You can't let anybody know she likes you.
Yeah.
So she's got to be like extra, like that guy. No,
Right.
no,
Oh,
what? What do you mean?
he's Kelpian. Oh.
Yeah, I know. Did you see how scared he was by some dust? uh,
Savage.
so you were hoping that that their relationship got derailed in episode 12. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm of the impression that if you're gonna do it, rip the band-aid off. Have
Yeah.
them be boyfriend, girlfriend, or don't. Don't none of this like, well, I kind of like you. Cause we have on a show with all the adorable characters on the planet, we're good. Just I want someone to
There
start slanging it like, yo, you, me, Pod Bay.
there are a lot of them, and even Burnham is obviously not particularly well adjusted. I mean, she's Captain Burnham is a lot different than the Burnham we saw in earlier seasons, but at the same time, you don't have the not Dwayne Johnson, but you don't have The Rock. You don't have the people that are like perfectly well adjusted. I mean, everybody's a little off. This is like it's like a whole island of misfit toys in space.
Even Reese, you see his odd looks. He's like so shifty.
Yeah,
sitting there going like, "Are you sure, Captain?"
Yeah, you sure about this? Yeah,
It's like,
I
oh,
know
damn.
exactly. Let's talk about Species 10C because
please.
it has a sort of it has a V'ger feel to it, where it
Yes.
is, it is in the Star Trek the Motion Picture. There's and which you've now seen, which is great because you're able to, at least relate to that. Where it is, and look, I think it's great that not every alien is humanoid, which for obvious reasons, earlier incarnations of Star Trek, you needed to do that because you're going to have a person playing them in some kind of, prosthetics or a rubber suit or whatever.
Yeah.
But with effects being what they are, it can be a bunch of flashing lights and we can kind of see. Now,
Aliens.
there were bones on that planet. So we feel like they have some kind of corporeal form, but just sort of interacting with lights and there was the moment where I think it was Burnham. It says, "I love math." And I was like, all right, just let's move on because I don't need this episode reinforcing the idea that maybe I might have needed some of that math that that I kind of zoned out on.
Well, you want all science, no math?
No, I wasn't. I was like like a 96 on the American history regents in New York State, and but then science and math. Not so good. Not so strong.
It all balanced out.
I'm whatever. I think that's right brain when it's history and English and whatnot. That's those are my strong suits.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, but this idea, and like watching the excitement of all those nerds try and figure out all that math made me feel much more superior to them. No, it was interesting, sort of the way that they figured it out, and having the time, having the excitement, the look, we're having this first contact is great, except for the fact that this DMA of theirs is going to destroy a number of planets and billions of people, and I like that they basically got a response from Species 10C, which was, once they did all the math, it translated into sad emoji.
Yes, with lights.
Kind of what they got. Yeah, like
womp womp.
Yeah. It was that Price is Right sound.
What do we do?
Exactly.
I like the idea of having the species that's so advanced in theory that's the only way they can communicate with us. I guess how would you talk to an ant or a cockroach, right? But at the same time, if you weren't in that mood, it could be very draining. I remember when I got to that part where they brought the bridge crew on to figure out what was happening, I paused and got up and got some coffee. I was like, I needed to get myself awake to understand this because this might go over my head. So it is kind of like it's a welcome shift, but an odd and jarring one to go from like, we need the go through the bubble space of the barrier to, okay, what is these hydrocarbons mean on this code? Like it just, it's kind of messed up. Yeah.
No, exactly. That and then that goes back to the more cerebral, deliberate storytelling of Star Trek. Star Wars, it's always shoot first, ask questions later, and then shoot again just to be sure. And I look, I agreed with the general. We got to do something here, but man, when Book isn't the one to respond to you, and you get like a text back, you're not even at all hesitant. I mean, I guess she's really focused on, she's worried about her planet being saved. I think from a writing standpoint, it was good that Tarka didn't get on the line and be like, yeah, Mr. Booker is unavailable, but you can just go ahead and do that thing that we asked you to do that you really didn't want to. That seems like treason. So I guess it had to be a text message, right? Because there's nobody that if you're not dealing with Book, you're like, I don't trust this, right?
Absolutely. I feel like Book was the one that appealed to Earth's sensibilities. I don't know how you
Yeah.
say here. But now, perhaps the most Earth-like thing ever, lol Earth, am I right? Hitting the button to make sure this whole sequence goes off, to basically accelerate, to provoke these 10C species, alien things. It was an odd storyline. It really felt like you had to give that crew, Booker and Tarka, something to do. And it sucks, because with the break and time off, and we talked about this on my sister's show, right? The break in time off, all that stuff gets cut off at the knees. All the goodwill that you remember seeing Quajon getting blown to smithereens, or Coast City by Cyborg Superman get blown to smithereens, go
Right.
out the window when it's kind of like, no, we gotta do whatever. So when Book gets incapacitated, you're kind of like, you deserve it. You totally deserve this.
Yeah, and and I mean, there's still a chance. I thought that there were so many reaction shots of Reno, and I was just like, what is she gonna like? Do something, you know? It's like she's clearly come up with something with the licorice and the communicator, which of course he's got black licorice. I mean, I know they have
How does that
replicators.
survive the future? Like,
Yeah, I mean, how it's not red Twizzlers and no other kinds of licorice. I mean, red vine shouldn't be around in the future
no,
either.
yeah, how
Yeah,
long?
that's our East Coast bias, but that's all right. Anybody in the comments can call us out for that. And it was pretty clear that she's like looking over his math and being like, oh no,
Yeah.
and I thought her story that she has about keeping I think it was a cadet, but keeping someone alive when all they wanted to do was die, and just because they had the same eyes as her wife. I thought that's a great, heartbreaking story. Great character work from a character that we've seen far too little of this year. But
Mhm.
in addition to being a great character moment, it really highlights that Tarka is so far past right, wrong, rational, irrational. He has his singular focus. I need to get back to the mirror. I need to get to the mirror universe. I need to reunite with my platonic friend, who I may or may not have romantic feelings about, depending on whether or not the statutes exist in this part of the galaxy.
Right.
Whatever the relationship is.
Yeah.
And what did you think about that, Flobo? Sort of how Reno really highlights what's going on with Tarka.
Yeah, to me, Rito really evolved, man. It went from being the quip machine to having one of the more tragic stories of being tied to this, ship for who
Yeah.
knows how long. And that was the first time she mentioned her wife, or the second. I feel like she mentioned it once before, but it was still a cool story to
Yeah.
have someone just there suffering, and you're trying hard to do what's duty. You're probably lying to yourself, saying it's for this reason when it's actually
Yeah.
that reason, which I thought was a real crux of things. But I'm just like, to make this work, Booker had to be the most dumb book, or Cleveland Booker the fifth, right? Had to be the dumbest guy on the planet to be like, okay, I'll do whatever you want, Tarka. Like, anyone else would have jumped off board at this point.
Yeah,
Or
and
before this
and
point.
how Tarka is able to create to override Book's ship the way that he did. That I think, I mean, I feel like Book should have been suspicious from the very beginning and never taken Tarka at his word. But after he fired off the isolinium bomb, when Book did not want him to, at that point, he should have made sure that, everything required, like, you know, double secret passwords,
Yeah.
like Book's eyeball recognition, like Tarka should not have been able to take over his ship and not be able to imprison Book when Book wants him to stop what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And but I mean, it did make their storyline more interesting. That's what Craig said when he popped into the chat. It was having Reno there definitely, added an interesting dynamic. And, she even like reminds Tarka, like, you're going to kill everybody for what? Because of you, because of your friend, you know? And I don't know. I think that this it definitely made this storyline more watchable to have
Agreed.
somebody else there, jumping in. And then, of course, Adira and everybody on the ship figure out that Reno's missing just in enough time for Reno to send them a message to let them know that she's missing. So I was just like, how about they just never figured it out?
If I was those Klingons, would have been dead twice over, and no one would
Yeah,
notice.
right. Exactly. I know. It's like, well, there's, Zora says she's here, but I don't see her anywhere. There can't possibly be something wrong.
I'm sorry, I'm going through some stuff. Zora.
Yeah, I know Zora. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Zora's very emotional, but if she could be more focused, they never would have been able to pull this off. But look, the species 10C is really, warming up to interacting with a species that they realize is intelligent, or a group of species, I suppose. And then Tarka goes and messes the whole thing up, and then they get very upset and they send them back. And it doesn't look like it's gonna end well. And I'm sorry, but Burnham has given so much leeway because of her feelings for Book. I mean, your pal Commander Non was on the bridge for the sake of making sure she did the right thing. I know that this won't happen. There is 0% chance this will happen. Episode 13, in the first 3 seconds, Discovery needs to blow up Book's ship. It's enough already. Enough trying to save him because he's your boyfriend. All right. Like, and poor, bad for Reno, wrong place, wrong time.
Right.
But you have to stop them. And I don't know what else you can do. And I know that they will not do that. So it'll be more interesting because I'm just like, yeah, how about stab, stab, kill, kill? But
I actually agree with you, but geez, man, at least give the guy the moment to be like, I always love you. Like, welcome.
They've had that. They've had like 4 goodbyes. Also, I mean, there's somewhere along the way that they could have I don't know, they could have beamed Tarka off of Book's ship, like into the heart of the sun or something. I mean, just get rid of them. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And Book should go to jail. But I think Tarka needs to be like, publicly executed, so possibly by General Picard, not to spoil something we'll be talking about a little bit later.
I haven't
tonight.
seen this week.
That's all right. That's all right.
It's a thing where I go, this is kind of the pitfalls of having a season-long arc, right? So the first season you had the seasons 1 and 3 are basically gangs, right? The Klingons versus the Emerald Chain. 2 and 4, 2 was more about the tribe and travel. Now you have this alien life form, and it feels like the writers are like, we don't want to make this Emerald Chain 2, let's make them not the bad guy. So it does feel kind of reverse engineered. So when we go back to the episodes we had, even though I loved them, the casino episode was another one that didn't need to happen, and it makes you wonder, if this was compressed, if this was a 6 or 10 episode season, would Tarka be dead already? Would he already been killed? Would Book be on the good team once more to go after discovery of this, no pun intended, of this new species?
Yeah, no, I think that getting to see because we've just sort of had intermediaries conveying messages from species 10C. So we're going to see species 10C. They're going to figure out a way to communicate, and they're not happy. And they might have the level of power where they're able, because now that they're aware of a threat being posed by Tarka, I don't think he's actually going to be able to do what he's trying. Because now they're aware that, like, oh, these are, like, they were trying to figure out, like, so why did you send this stupid bomb to us that, like, we really didn't care about? I mean, that's why they sent the representation of the isolinium bomb. So I think it finally built to we're building to an exciting conclusion. It took us a long time to get there, unfortunately, too long. I'd say probably 3 weeks too many. This would have been a much better 10 episode season, but wouldn't have killed it to be an 8 episode season, but that's fine. But I'm excited to see how it all comes together. uh, Book and Michael cannot end up back together at the end. She cannot forgive this. Maybe one day, if there's like a season 20, maybe. But I think he's just done too much. He's made too many. He's made too many concessions. He's made too many bad decisions, and Tarka cannot succeed because of the price that it will pay, and it's sort of inevitable. And he will keep trying if he's still alive. So Tarka will definitely be dead by this time next week.
Well, I just hope I hope that Tarka is dead, and I also hope there's not some weird like gotcha, like surprise ending. Like, well, COVID works for them too. Like, I don't want that.
Oh
I want
boy.
that to.
Yeah,
I
I
want
don't
it to
want
be
that.
a thing
Yikes.
that we haven't seen. Given to all the discovery, even if it ends in like a pseudo cliffhanger where it's like a now what type of paradigm shift, I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. Just do not do a whole like we were giving you clues all season.
Oh, I know what my moment was when Stamets and Culber said we'll take a vacation after all this, and I was like, oh no. That was it. I remember now because I was like, wait, what were the threads I wanted to pull on? I'm like, oh no, like
Yeah.
you can't kill Culber again, you
Oh,
know?
it won't be an again. It'll be a.
Yeah, no, I know. And I'm just like, is that what we're building to? But I don't like where that story's heading, is really what I'm saying.
Mhm.
They've done enough to that couple, like let's let them leave the ship for a little bit. Yeah, Craig, Burnham will make nice with Book again. She loves a bad boy. Look at Ash, but she's a captain of the ship now. I agree with you that will be, I think that there are going to be other people who will, she can personally forgive Book, but he's going to have to go to that prison planet from Star Trek 6.
They're killing off Stamets, you know that, right?
Do you know that for sure?
Nope. But just by what we're seeing here, the
I
father
do.
figure of Adira, the Cobra want to break, the
Yep.
mini warp drive or the mini spore
Well,
drive.
that's what I'm getting at, and the fact that Book can also power the spore drive means that they do have a replacement. I don't know how they work that out, but look, Michael committed treason in the pilot of the show, and she's a starship captain now, so they might figure out a way around it. But yeah, I mean that's what I was getting at with when they're making plans for like after this is all over, we'll take a vacation. Oh no. That's like that I mean that's right up there with horror movie. I'll be right back. It's like, yeah, let's make plans for after this. And I'm worried because Lieutenant Commander Guy from Rent, I
Guy
really
from
became
Red.
fond of him. I mean, that's what I used to call him,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I just don't like what's happening. I feel like there's going to be a lot of pain and hurting in episode 13, and I know Discovery's been renewed for season 5. Take your time, put on the screen things that happen faster than this. That's all I'm really looking for. But what do you think we're getting next week, Flobo?
Well, we're definitely getting 2 deaths. I'm not sure who. I know you want Tarka.
I think Tarka will die one way or the other.
Tarka and Book, but I'm thinking it might be Tarka and Stamets now that we've talked about our
Now
conspiracy
that we've
theories.
given him the kiss of death, yes.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know, man. I kind of want, and I guess the only thing I'm missing is just other communities on planets. Yeah, we've seen
Yeah.
Navarre. Yeah, we've seen Earth, but they always seem to be off screen. Like put me
That's
down
true.
on places like you did last season when we went to was a place Trill. We went to Trill. I want that kind of like exploration a little bit more.
I agree.
Next season.
Yeah. And a comment from Craig. Thanks again, Craig, for making the time. I was wondering how Burnham and company are planning to make nice with 10C. What math code will say, quote, sorry for that guy. He's an asshat, unquote. I mean, that is what they need to say.
Yeah.
So they need to come up with a math code for the poop emoji, basically. That's this guy.
Poop arrow.
Well, I don't know. I hope that I can look back fondly on this season. I hope that they stick the landing and that it's a big ending, and that that I hope that next week I feel good with my decision that I'll watch Discovery before Picard next week, because it is a finale. I want to see how it ends, and we will of course be back to talk about it next week. And Flobo, if people want more Star Trek talk from you, where do they go to find that?
No, I'm just kidding. I have no
If you
idea.
see me on the street, you can stop me.
Hey, you. The show is called Commander's Log, available every Thursday on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Flobo Boyce, or whatever you listen to your podcast. It's kind of a comedy show with Star Trek thrown in it because we just make fun of everything every week out, but it's good times. We're pretty much going to go a little bit of a course correction for the next couple of weeks with the period between Picard and Strange New Worlds. When Strange New World comes back, we'll be doing that one week in, week out.
All right. Well, that'll be great. And you can always find this show. I know it has jumped around on the schedule and we've had to double up a few episodes, but we will be back next week to talk about the season finale, episode 13. I believe you'll find us at a time very similar to this one, if not right at this time on next Friday. But for tonight, as I mentioned earlier, you can find our review of Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 2. That'll be at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And I am disappointed that you won't be able to be with us, Flobo, for the usual reasons, but also you're going to miss me talking about the situation, the comparison of characters where I much prefer your friend Raffi to someone. There is someone who is just literally the worst in a situation where Raffi would be a much better person to be in that situation. And when you watch this episode, you're going to go like, oh, I know who he's talking about now.
I was going to skip this week and double up next week, but now I have to watch it.
I think you're going to have to see who I like Raffi. There's someone I like Raffi better than, and we will talk about that. My friend, comedian Tom Kelly from New York will be joining the pantheon, the round table of myself, I believe Nikki Bailey, and of course the one, the only, the Frank Moran. And none of us got to go to the 10 Forward pop-up in Los Angeles, but a few people on my feed did, and I hate them now. But that is all the time we have, except, of course, for Craig wants Linus to go down in a blaze of glory. So we have that prediction there. Thank you, Craig. That is all the time we have for now. But until next time, live long and prosper. And as Flobo Boyce always says, let's fly.
That's